Good morning. My name is Legion Chai, and I'm a policy specialist at the Progressive States Network. I'm really excited to be here today to support Connecticut's bill to prevent toxics from children's products and toys. I'd like to thank Sarah and the rest of the coalition members for hosting this forum and inviting us to participate. The Progressive States Network is dedicated to working with state legislators to help pass protections for consumers, for the environment, to provide affordable housing and affordable health care, and protect our working families. Last fall, we began a nationwide campaign to help support local and state groups and national groups that were trying to ban toxics in children's toys and products, like the Steelworkers and Clean Water Action. And what you see now is there are three different kinds of bills that are being produced. One is just to ban lead, one is to ban phthalates and bisphenol A, and the third group creates monitoring mechanisms to continually monitor toys and toxins and also require safer alternatives. In the first group of bills that just ban lead, there are several states that have this moving, like Virginia, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Nebraska, and Michigan. Among the groups that are banning phthalates, we have states like Hawaii, Maryland, Illinois, Minnesota, and West Virginia. And as we probably know, last fall, California became the first state to ban certain phthalates in children's products. And as was said earlier, they're banned in the European Union in countries like Mexico, Argentina, and Japan. And what you see now is that these countries that are banning them, the U.S. is becoming this toxic waste dump for these toys that are considered to be too toxic to be put in any other country. And when we look at the third category of bills that deal with monitoring mechanisms and providing safer alternatives, there are two models that are really prevalent. One is from the state of Maine, and one is from the state of Washington. Maine's bill identifies chemicals of high concern that manufacturers and distributors can be required to swap for safer alternatives. It also creates an interstate clearinghouse to promote safer chemical use and also help with information sharing across state borders. The Washington bill goes a little bit further and bans both products with lead at a rate of 40 ppm and also products with phthalates that have been banned by California and the EU. This bill also identifies high priority chemicals and provides consumers access to information regarding chemicals that are used in children's products and whether there are safer alternatives. This last bit is particularly important because that means that parents can go online and see what toxics are in children's toys and how to buy safer alternatives. And Rhode Island has also adopted a version of the Maine bill, and there are several states that are in the final stages of bill preparation and introduction. Connecticut's bill actually combines the best elements of all of this mentioned legislation. The Act first identifies a list of chemicals of high concern, also requires safer alternatives, and provides participation in this multi-state clearinghouse of information. That then goes one step further and provides seed funding for an innovation institute that would help identify chemicals of high concern and test toys and children's products for these chemicals. This is particularly important because then you're creating a continuous monitoring process so that you can ensure that in the future toxics, as we said, the science is just getting better, future toxics will be identified and then also prevented from entering into children's toys and products. It's also important that the Act and this bill also works with local businesses to ensure that the safer alternatives can be put in a way that doesn't make business in Connecticut less competitive. And finally, the Act also engages the public by providing information and education in business, industry, government, and consumers on chemicals of high concern and the availability of safer alternatives. And finally, this Act is a necessary first step towards comprehensive toxics chemicals reform. Massachusetts has recently introduced safer alternatives to toxic chemicals bill that would work towards replacing toxic chemicals in all products, not just children's products. And as was stated earlier, since Connecticut has such a high rate of garbage incineration, these toxics are just re-released into the atmosphere if they're still existing in the products. So comprehensive toxic reform really is necessary to provide the greatest amount of protection for health, not just of children, but also for the entire population. And I'll conclude by saying, the fact that states like Nebraska, West Virginia, and Mississippi are introducing legislation that's similar to more traditionally liberal states like Massachusetts and Michigan, it really highlights the urgent need for state action. There's no comprehensive federal reform being pushed at the moment, so it's really up to the states to fill this gap. And I'm really encouraged Connecticut legislators to take this very important step. Connecticut is no stranger to being a leader on environmental health issues. We were the first to ban mercury from power plants and also mercury in products. So this is really the time where, the legislature really has a chance to be a leader on the issue and protect Connecticut's children from toxins.